Welcome back to Division I Rejects, episode 149. I'm joined tonight by Marcus Hansen, the NSIC Defensive Player of the Year, here shortly. If you want to get right to that conversation, look at the timestamps, video chapters in the video description if you're on YouTube. Otherwise, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's all in the description. Fast forward any part of the conversation today. Trev, we got some good stuff today, dude.
Excited.
I'm excited about it. I am. I'm pumped about it. We've got Marcus, obviously. Great conversation with him. I was just telling you, it feels like he actually thoroughly enjoyed coming on the show, and that's kind of the best feedback and critique I can get.
Yeah, it's a great feeling when
someone has fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, fun conversation with him, and we talked with him about a big Week 0 game coming to Division II. Maybe not to the same caliber as Pittsburgh State, Ferris State in Week 0. Still, Bemidji State, Michigan Tech.
It's going to be a good matchup.
Nice matchup.
Yeah.
Very Big Ten football-y.
Yeah, and I also, it is. I didn't think about that, but.
Yeah, and he did say, he's like, he didn't necessarily say he was proud of it, but he did say, they kind of claim they're Big Ten over there. For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And we mentioned it earlier, it's not going to be it's a crazy travel game for Tech either.
No.
So even if they play it, if it's a 2-year deal and Bemidji goes there next year, the following year.
Absolutely, which you'd assume that's how most of the contracts work.
I mean, that's pretty ideal for both of them. I mean,
yep.
I don't know how far it is, but it's not more than 5 hours, I don't think.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. So looking forward to that. And like you said, fast forward to that conversation or any part of today's show if you want to. Otherwise, we've got a D3 alum playing in Super Bowl 58, offensive lineman for the San Francisco 49ers. We'll talk about him shortly, so stick around for that. And then Johns Hopkins, a really prominent Division III football program that made it to the national quarterfinals. Sounds correct? Because they got beat by Randolph-Macon at home pretty bad. But, again, very prominent Division III football program. They got a new head coach over there who was on the staff, but cool little video announcing him taking over the reins there. And we'll take a look at that. And then finally, the news that maybe doesn't pertain to the D1 rejects per sorts, but certainly could have a trickle-down effect and is very big in the sports world. No one's really gotten ahead of it yet, so we may as well talk about it. Student-athletes now employees of the schools that they represent.
This could completely change college sports.
Yeah.
Or it could just be shut down tomorrow, and
then no one talk about it ever again.
Everyone's going to be like, exactly. What the hell is Division I Rejects talking about?
So if you hadn't seen it, we'll get to it later. Dartmouth, there were kids on their men's basketball team that basically are arguing over the fact that they are employees and should be treated as such and have the right to unionize and have cuts of broadcast deals. The whole amateurism and kind of structure of the NCAA could be at a precipice here. It's very interesting stuff.
Damn
but
smart kids over in the Ivy League.
It was. Of course, it had to be an Ivy League team. But we'll give our 2 cents on it later, our 4 cents, if you will. As always, though, you can watch this episode on YouTube if you are. Hello. Otherwise, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You know where to get it. Episode 150 is next. That's crazy. Follow us on the socials. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on the other platforms. Drop a rating if you really, really care about us. That would mean a lot. But before anything, let's get to that conversation with Marcus. Joining the show tonight, the man was the NSIC Defensive Player of the Year, a finalist for the Cliff Harris Award, the conference in sacks, tackles for loss, probably a bunch of other shit that I maybe just didn't write down. And I don't know, mention, All-American Marcus Hansen. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm happy to be here, guys.
Happy to get you on here, man. Just me tonight. No guys. Probably not until later. But
well, I guess everyone else wanting to listen.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good start.
Gotta talk to the people.
Man of the people. Are we in the kitchen tonight for the pod?
We in the whole apartment. I got a nice little 1-bedroom setup going on over here. So yeah,
let's get a tour. Tilt that thing over. Let's get a little tour. We got
I would, but I had to hide some of the mess. So.
No.
I had to give the illusion that I live a life of luxury here.
That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. What's Bemidji look like this time of year?
Well, atypical Bemidji year. We have the frozen lake, frozen tundra. Your ideal picture of Antarctica, but right now we're in some sort of heat spell or something. We're in 40s. There's literally no snow here, which is absolutely ridiculous because I remember my freshman year, every morning before my 6 a.m. lift, I'd have to hike through the frozen tundra, the mile high piles of snow just to get over to our lifting building. So yeah, it's been a weird winter for sure here, but I'm super happy that it's not as cold as it has been.
I feel that. Marquette's the same way. At least I'm literally the same way coming into my freshman year. Now at least you have the stories for the freshmen, so we can be like, oh, like, you guys got it so easy. Like, we had to fucking, like, I had to get snowshoes to get to class, and I had to do all this, and they're not going to believe us, but that's all right, because it happened. So that's all well and good. But we're here to talk ball, not about treks to class, and you guys made a pretty big announcement today. So hell of a timing on this interview, which shout out to you. You reached out to me, and I love when guys do that. So that makes my job so much easier. Like, let's get on here, talk some ball, make shit happen. But the news that broke today, you guys are hosting Michigan Tech. Week 0 is a beautiful thing, isn't it, Marcus?
Oh yeah. Week 0 is going to be such a great time for us up here. I'm always excited to get to play football earlier and earlier. So,
Hell yeah.
getting to play in August now, that's just a great time. We're going to start getting away from those colder games, hopefully, up here, because, I'm starting to get sick of playing in like negative 20 degrees. So, a nice 80-degree game will be a nice change for us up here.
No, don't tell him that. Don't tell him that. You really do get, again, we're in very similar kind of climate and geographic region. You get both in the span of just a couple months. That August is just brutal and out there in training camp. But then when you actually get to playing some quote unquote meaningful football, especially for you guys late in the postseason, hosting, playoff game, whatever, total opposite. It's the exact opposite. So, with that being said, the announcement was made, maybe 8 hours ago at the time we're recording this. How much film on the Huskies have you watched?
0 at this point.
All right. All right.
Yeah, we haven't got any of that exchange going yet.
We gotta get on that.
Yeah, there's
Prep
gonna
starts
be
now.
right away.
Prep starts now, brother. I know
yeah,
you guys you'll be ready though. And it feels like between go ahead. Sorry, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just been a lot of excitement around here lately. So
I bet.
we're just trying to get back to work, like we say, and grind the axe. And when we get to that time to start watching film and everything and start being down on other teams, we'll get to that time. Yeah, it'll be exciting.
Good answer. Good answer. Now, is it only after wins that you guys go and jump in the lake?
That's actually just after homecoming wins.
It's just homecoming.
Yeah, so it's just like
pretty
just a little
badass.
special event that we get to do. Get the whole community involved. We go jump in the lake, get to sing the school song, and thankfully this year it'll be early enough in the season, so we're not jumping into a frozen lake or anything. 40 degrees out, and we're jumping into a lake, so it'll be
I
like
always thought that was pretty cool. And again, like, we have Lake Superior right next to our practice field, so that's like a given after, especially the fall camp days. Like, you go in and we don't have really ice baths here because we have the lake. I don't know if that's just kind of a cop out from our university, but either way, it works, right? But it does feel like between Northern Michigan, Michigan Tech being in the Upper Peninsula and the proximity to you guys, feels like there's going to be a lot more of those games geographically. It makes a lot of sense. I think we play a pretty similar brand of ball, especially Michigan Tech right now, when you kind of chalk it up. And I think just for you guys, it's got to be fun because even just a few years prior, like, you're not getting these out of conference games because your league is already so just saturated in general. So I got to imagine it's be fun to play some new faces.
Oh yeah, it's always fun to get to play new teams. Getting outside the conference is something like, especially a lot of the players here have always wanted. And, especially when we get deep into that playoffs and when we get to get those out of conference games, it's always a lot of excitement. But getting to do that in the regular season, week 0 at home, I think that's just something everyone here is kind of looking forward to.
100%, man. And talking about you, I guess, in a little bit more particular, I read up, I watch up, try and listen on things, so we're not just regurgitating old info. So I'll give you the cliff notes for people. For the guys that you referred to in the intro, I'll give them the cliff notes. And talk about you coming out of high school, being a track guy. And as defensive end, don't typically see that. You see wide receivers, DBs, some of those skill guys, typically, track and field, I want to be fast. No, you were throwing the shot, you were throwing the discus, and you were damn good at it. But then circumstances change. You end up at Bemidji as a walk-on. What was that process like? Was the recruitment different for track and field in any crazy ways when you compare it to football at the college level?
Yeah. So big piece in that was COVID.
Yeah.
So I was being recruited right at the start of the pandemic. So a lot of my opportunities, because of my like stature and my height, were taken away from me or not necessarily there. And especially a lot of track programs, men's track programs specifically, were being cut at that time. So a lot of funding wasn't there for that take a chance guy that I definitely was. I've been putting up solid numbers, but even in my own head at the time, I wasn't sure if I could quite do that at the collegiate level. So yeah, and then it just seemed like it kind of just fell here, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell you how I got here. I remember just getting a text from Coach Bish at the time, and he's like, "Hey, we got a spot for you." And I was like, "Sure, I'll take it." At that point, it was really like the only opportunity I had to play athletics past high school. So,
who we had on the show, by the way, a little while back.
yeah.
Phenomenal dude. Taught us all about what a javelina is down there, which I still can't get over. That they have a taxidermied one in their office there. Badass.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's weird.
Dude, it's hilarious. He told me,
Yeah.
he told us apparently they're just all over the place down there, like on the
Really?
like side of the road and shit like that. Yeah. So total tangent. Sorry. But no, that is, you make a good point there. And I wanted to ask that because obviously you have this idea for yourself, at least, you know, what college is potentially going to look like. And you're very right. Like some of the smaller market sports, track and field. I know I saw a lot of like gymnastics programs that got cut during that time span. Like, you weren't seeing football, basketball, soccer, those teams usually a little bit safer, but like you said, some of those programs not so much. Your confidence level now, after a season like you've had, it's easy to obviously be confident in your abilities and you know what you're capable of. But talk about coming in as a freshman, as a walk-on, someone who didn't see themselves in this spot, in those shoes. What was the confidence level like then?
I was gonna say like internally I was very scared, but
Yeah.
I never really let it show it. I was always one of those people that was told, you know, just fake it till you make it. And, you know, I guess here we are, just faked it all the way through my first fall camp. I remember beating up on the punch shield. And then between getting my, you know, first like playing time on special teams the season before last season, I remember I was just like absolutely sitting out there just shitting my pants because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know like what the speed of the game was going to be like. I didn't know if I was going to get put on my back or I was going to put someone else on their back.
Yep.
And, you know, just rolling to the season, to the starting DN job here. Yeah. And then I just, again, kept faking it all the way. And then I guess here we are now.
Hey, we're not faking it anymore, brother.
No.
We've arrived, right? Come on, we've arrived now.
Yeah,
But I'm with you. Now. Sometimes it's about what you put on the outside, and it's sometimes, you know, faking that helps you really believe it, and that turns into a real confidence. Whereas it started off as a pseudo confidence, and it's just something you start to embrace that as you continue to move on. And talk about like ending up at Bemidji, and I think that's an interesting thing that I talk with kids who come on their visits here sometimes. I do the photo shoots for kids, and I was talking to a parent this last weekend, and she talked about how the student athlete, her kid, you know, she had told them, like, whenever you go there and you feel like that's home, like that's how you'll know. I never felt like that. I visited quite a few places, and there was never a time where I stepped on campus and was like, man, like, this is me, this embodies me 100%, but I end up here, and I really enjoyed it. Is that something super similar that happened to you, or did you know right away when you stepped foot over there?
I guess a little part of me right away was like, yeah, this is a place I kind of want to end up. After being here, my first semester was very, very different than home. So there were times where I necessarily wasn't sure if this was the place where I wanted to spend the rest of my 4 years.
Okay.
But you know, at the end of the day, after all the work I've put in here, after all the people I've met, all the friends I've made, this is definitely a place I would call home. And honestly, I wouldn't trade this experience for the world. Especially like places that you don't like, or situations you don't want to be in. You always have to make the best of it. And you know, find like the silver lining. And I feel like I found the silver lining and even a little bit farther than that, and found like joy and happiness being here and just in the people I've met.
That's real, man. Found a silver lining, and you just found my soundbite for my social post from this conversation. So that's like a 2-in-1 deal.
There you go.
You're a stud.
I try to be.
No, you are, man. But sticking on ball, what's the spring schedule look like for you guys this year?
Yeah, so spring schedule. You know, we're just in our workout kind of session right now, just grinding the axe, like we like to say up here in Bemidji. And then kind of after spring break, we're gonna roll into some practices, and then something a little new that we're doing this year is we're gonna be actually scrimmaging University of Minnesota Duluth.
Hell yeah!
Towards the end of our spring practices and all that. So that'll be a really exciting time. That's something new that we haven't done for quite some time. I think honestly since COVID is had like a scrimmage against another school. So that'll be like a super exciting, like competitive environment to be in. And again.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's another new piece of legislation that was semi-recently passed. Not nearly as recent as the Week 0 deal, but I remember actually Northern was supposed to come over to Duluth probably in 2020 or 2021, that spring there. And we actually had 3 offensive linemen that were either between like eligible, available, like injury wise, and so guess who didn't make the trip? That would have been us because we couldn't even field the football team. But it's definitely a different dynamic, and I think it would change the way you approach spring ball as a coach and as a player because not that you're not putting in great work, effort anyways, but now you almost have something to look forward to near the end of it. And it could be a great testing point for a lot of younger guys that maybe haven't gotten the reps in the fall and likewise. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I think it would be a great experience for everyone. You know, we don't play Duluth this year, so I mean that's always a bummer. I love that game.
Yep.
But you know, it's just an experience for, you know, especially any new coaches we might have or old coaches, just to like work on like game planning and stuff because it's another opportunity we can get better at. And yeah, like you said earlier, all the young guys having to step up, you know, play different spots that they necessarily haven't played before because, you know, people that graduated or, you know, coaches want to see guys in different spots. So I think it'll be a great learning experience for our team, especially the way we did graduate so many seniors this year.
Yeah.
So he wants to step up and he wants to be that dog this year.
Now, I got something for those underclassmen coming into the building this year for you guys, and I just wanted to run it by you to see if it was cool. We get some quotations up, and I think it's going to go either above the weight room or maybe just you let me know, locker room, whatever, but the quote goes as follows. My goal every play is to put someone on the ground. Doesn't really matter if you have the ball or not. What do you think?
I think that's a good one. Yeah.
Just something I came up with off the cuff.
Yeah, definitely we can paint it right above the door, slap it on the way
You think?
out for the games and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, sounds like a great quote.
Yeah, for those who can't sense sarcasm, that's his quote, and it's an awesome quote at that. And I loved that just listening to you speak. I think it was on the NSIC spotlight probably that you were talking, one of the things I listened. But just talk about that mentality, a dude at your position where sometimes you're not making the play, but you're the dude that allows the play to be made depending on the style of offense and kind of your role and your position. That mindset is what embodies that kind of role in the squad. Talk about it, man.
Yeah, my coach always talks about it, just playing your role and playing your role to the fullest potential. I try to do my best to put my team in the best position to win, whether
Good
that's
answer.
me making the play or someone else making the play. And especially when you get to beat up the guy across from you from first like 70 odd plays and like physically abuse them too, or not physically, psychologically abuse them as well
Oh, yeah.
while you're physically abusing them. It's just like another game within the game. And it's just like a really fun experience, especially someone, you know, who's 5'10" and has to look up at the guy across from them to be putting them on their backs every play. And I think it kind of added a little bit to my confidence too, just being able to do that and continually doing that to people.
It's huge, man. And you weren't the only one, obviously. That defense performed at a pretty stellar clip all year long. You look at, let up 25 touchdowns this year. That's a good number, especially you talk about that conference. And yeah, people could call that like, you guys might be the closest thing to Big Ten kind of football here, the way we have at the D2 level. You claim that? Is that like that's a pride thing over there?
I wouldn't say it's a pride thing, but we're definitely a very physical conference over here.
Okay.
Everyone's smashing up against each other. A lot of 12 personnel, big, heavy sets.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's like what football really should be.
Hell,
like
there it is. We're gonna hang that one right next to the first. That'd be like back to back. That'd be good. But talk about that defense, and I guess more specifically that trip down to Texas Permian Basin. That had to have been a highlight of the year, especially for your unit on that defensive side of the ball. The defense obviously travels. Was that the most challenging environment you guys played in this year, or what was it along the way?
Personally, like I feel like there wasn't a really challenging environment. We always like to just focus on the task at hand here.
Okay.
Block out a lot of the outside noise. Personally, one of the hardest environments we had to play in this year, I feel like, was when we went to University of Mary.
Okay.
They always don't necessarily draw the biggest crowd, so it was a little bit deader of an environment there, but it was nothing that we couldn't handle. But back to when we went to Permian Basin, I thought that was a really exciting game to play. At the end of the day, we knew it had to come down to the defense, because obviously we were playing both very like defense heavy teams, so either it was just down to who made the less mistakes on defense, and we knew we were up to that task when we stepped onto the field then. But yeah, it was really fun to see. Everyone was flying around. People were putting a lot of other people on the ground just besides me too. Specifically, I remember this really big hit by Max Medeiros. I'll give him a big shout out. Absolutely just cleaned someone off the field and stood over him like an absolute menace. Yeah, just a absolute dogfight of a game, but I loved it. Loved every minute of it. And we still talk about it here. It was such a fun game for us, specifically as a defensive unit.
I believe it. And I know there were some talking heads like myself that's like, the host of that game probably had a decent advantage. You talk about at that point in the season where, you know, you're playing those games in the weather you guys deal with, and now you're flipping the script and coming down to Texas to play that game. Didn't know how that would play a factor into it. And, you know, not to downplay it, which you do a great job of, talk about a defensive struggle. That team had the best offense, in the Lone Star by a large margin. So definitely do not want to downplay that performance from you guys. That was really impressive. But that's about all I got for you, Marcus. I appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you putting up with my antics, dude. It's been fun.
No, thanks for having me, man. It was a great time. Love talking football. Just can't wait to get back and start playing again. It feels like already too long.
Right? I know it, dude. I'm excited for that week 0 matchup. That's going to be a very, you talk about setting the tone for the rest of the year. Michigan Tech, solid squad. 5-5 can be deceiving coming off of last year. And you guys, like you said, graduate a lot of guys, going to look a lot of different. But I led the kick conversation off with it. Who doesn't? Who's not going to look different heading into this 2024 season, man? That's what it's about.
All right. It's a new year of football. Anything can really happen. And it's all just going to be a product of what happens this offseason for a lot of teams out there. So we're going to do our best here to keep grinding the axe, like we say. And let's just go out and win that week 0 game and start out the season with a bang this year.
Hell yeah. Thanks, Marcus. Appreciate you, man. Have a good rest of your night, dude.
You too, Kobe. Appreciate it.
See ya. Big thank you to Marcus for joining us here. Had a good time with him, and we're going to switch gears, talk about Division III football and a prominent program in Division III football, that being the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays football squad. Dan Wadika taking over for them at the head coaching position. Graduated in 2014, was, quote, standout wide receiver for the Blue Jays over there, so love to see alum getting those kind of jobs. For the most part, seems to make a lot of sense. Familiar with the program, the ideals, all this, that, such. And the last couple of years, couple is in 2, he's been the team's defensive coordinator, and he's succeeding Greg Chimura. I'm hopefully pronouncing that correctly. He stepped down last month. He's now the offensive coordinator at the University of Pennsylvania. So Penn. So yeah, more commonly known as Penn. So a definite step up for
those
him.
damn Ivy League schools.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But it's crazy. You look at Chimura's background, and this guy has been with Johns Hopkins. Like, he's paid his dues. From 2009 to 2012, he was the running back and tight ends coach. This is the former head coach. Then for 2013, he got moved to wide receivers. 2014 to 2018, he was the OC. And then 2019, all the way up until just a month ago, he was the head coach of the Blue Jays.
So he's just gone up and
Dude.
up and up and up, and then he upgraded again, going
Yeah,
D1.
and he's experienced a good amount of success, and he's not stepping away after a season where they won 1 or 2 games. They made it to the national quarterfinal, and they played some really good ball.
Sure, that was really hard for him, but like at the end of the day, it's a job. Like,
Yeah.
he needs to do what's best for him and his family, I would guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it
But,
was go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, good for him. Like, that's
Yeah.
pretty big. That's the Ivy League. That's a pretty big time job. Like,
It would seem like hopefully a win-win for the program and like
Yeah.
for former coach Chimura to move on and then to get your guy in place. And that's kind of one of those moves where you feel like we're in a good spot right now. Let's just keep things rolling.
Yeah.
Somebody
Not
on the
much
current staff.
changes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't need a whole lot of turnover. Have a whole new guy bringing his whole new staff and a whole new kind of ideals.
exactly.
We've got something that works
Like another
if it ain't broke.
in the D2 realm of things, it's kind of like Grand Valley in a sense.
With Worcester.
With Worcester,
Yeah.
you kind of just keep the same sort of, the whole program stays intact.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, you bring in a couple other coaches, I'm sure. But,
Yep.
But I mean, everything pretty much stayed intact, and they were, 2 games away from a national championship.
They did
so,
all right.
Yeah,
they did all right.
I would say they did pretty good.
They lost to the eventual national champ by this many.
1 point.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But jokes aside, really cool video on the announcement of the head coaching position that we will take a listen to here, Trev.
I want to share a little bit. So you all gave me a list of traits,
This is the athletic
things
director.
that were really important to you in this fight. So just want to revisit that because this was my list. We had to go out and find this guy, right? So just to remind you, somebody who's outspoken, confident. A true leader of men, somebody who was a strong believer in tradition and committed to maintaining your culture. somebody who understands the academic requirements and the challenges of his players. Level-headed, consistent, professional, motivational, obsession with football.
Hell
It's
yeah.
a direct quote. Invested in the holistic development of his players, tough but fair, and family-oriented. And then the last thing, which was kind of an outlier, but I figured I'd do the best I could, was that you wanted somebody with a biomedical engineering degree from Johns Hopkins.
That's pretty cool.
That's sweet.
Coach Watica!
That's awesome.
It's got to be cold as shit there.
Okay, like they couldn't have done the. They couldn't have filmed this like inside somewhere.
Oh, dude.
You can see the frost still on the field.
Yeah, dude.
It's freezing. Someone's throwing water.
Yeah.
Don't throw water.
The water, wait, yeah, go back. The water bath, and he's like, oh, shit. Where is it? There it is, dude. He just dumped, dude. Just dumped all over. Oh, my gosh.
It looks cold.
It does. They don't care. Those boys are out there in shorts and T-shirts. Give a shit. That's awesome, though. Really cool, like, tie-in at the end there, too, right? Of, like, this wasn't a requirement, but he's got a biochemical degree from... And I love, like, the initial reaction from the guys was a little bit delayed. They're like, yeah. And they're like, who the hell has that degree? Like, who are we talking about? And was looking around, and then he comes out, oh, yeah, let's go. But, yeah, just a...
Good thing that they really like him, though. Imagine if they like did that whole thing and then like there's no cheering.
Do you ever think about that? Like maybe there's someone on the staff where just isn't like a fan favorite amongst the guys and gets the job. It'd be an awkward room, right?
Yeah.
The video probably wouldn't get posted. You'd imagine?
Probably not.
Yeah, but they seem pretty excited about
Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, really cool. Like just a little kind of announcement piece for those. So I'm glad they put that out for us to react to. But let's stay in D3. The former Division III player playing in the Super Bowl, that's Ben Barch. And I will pull up, I believe it was a D3 Direct that put out the original tweet, and they had sent that over to me to talk about it a little bit. And there's a kind of a couple reasons we wanted to talk about him today. The biggest, obviously, being that the dude is the only Division III player playing in the Super Bowl. Now, there are other guys involved, whether it be like coaching staffs or other kind of facilitator managerial roles that are a part of the big game this year. But this is the actual only man that's going to probably end up touching the grass, the sod, because it ain't turf. Like technically, can you call it turf?
It's still turf.
It's still turf.
Grass is still
It's just
turf.
not synthetic turf.
Yeah, like what we think of turf nowadays is synthetic turf, but it's still turf.
Yeah, but that's the man right there. Ben Barch plays interior offensive line for the San Francisco 49ers. You can see there that he was a lineman for St. John's. And actually kind of an interesting story is that he was a tight end at St. John's before making the switch ultimately over to offensive line.
That.
And that happened late, like very late, like almost like graduate late.
Oh, I didn't know.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like came in as a tight end like a sophomore year. It was like very late. He ended up making the change. At least was my understanding of it. He's been in the league for about 4 years, I believe, and started this year with the Jaguars. That's who drafted him initially. I believe they picked him up in around the 4th round, which is a very respectable place to go for a guy
absolutely.
like that. He missed their playoff games last year due to injury. He's dealt with a couple knee problems, I do believe. I don't know if that was the specific reason he was out. Elevated to the 49ers active roster in November before joining San Fran. He already had 20 starts in the NFL and had played in 41 games. So you're talking about a border, not quite veteran status, but like damn near. Because
damn close, yeah.
Technically in the NFL, if you've been in the NFL for 2 years, you're entitled to a veteran's minimum.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
2 years of being in the NFL. That could be practice squad.
That shows how hard it is to stay in the NFL.
Yeah, very. And also like the average career span you talk about is, like you said, very, very short.
Isn't it 4 years?
I don't even know if it's that long. I think it does depend on the position typically.
Yeah,
but I think the average is probably even less than that. I could
because we don't think about all the best guys. Yeah, they might play 15 years, but
more even that.
But like that's at the
crazy.
That's at the high end of what I'm
yeah.
saying. But then you don't talk about the guys that last a season, less than a season.
I was gonna say half a year on a practice squad or whatever,
Yeah.
So yeah, it is interesting. But the main reason, you guys might not know him from that. The reason, if at all, you would know about Ben Barch is because of this video right here, the D3 Smoothie King. And this is the video that I think gave him a lot of traction. This was back in 2020 in the combine. We talked about, and I'll pull it up here. We talked about him making the transition from tight end to offensive line. You might ask, how do you do it, Trev? It's kind of a bigger shift. This right here, he's explaining to the reporter back at the combine, which, by the way, he was the only Division III athlete this year in 2020 to be invited to the combine. Really cool stat there as well. But this is the smoothie that he drank, and we'll talk more about it after we watch.
I have a question here, though. Like, why scrambled eggs? Why wouldn't you just put, like, the egg in?
I don't know. I was afraid of
cooked.
getting food poisoning,
Really?
to be honest.
Am I putting all of this in?
As much as you want. You don't have to do it all.
Well, okay. I feel like that's going to help the situation, so I'm going to put it all in. Yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to get kicked out of the combine.
Yeah.
Okay, and scrambled eggs. Awesome. So we got grits, bananas, peanut butter, scrambled eggs, and
Grits
then
is
of course
crazy.
you're going to
And
top
Gatorade
it
to top it
with
off.
some Gatorade.
Red Gatorade.
Because why not?
Why not?
Ew. Disgusting. It looks horrible. Okay.
No.
So this blender, it works, and we're gonna try it
I'll
out.
give you the honors.
Okay, here we go. Smoothie extract, is that what we're gonna do here? I don't know. Get excited,
Oh my
everybody.
God.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
It doesn't look terrible, but you
Oh.
if you didn't know what was in it.
Yeah, look.
It's actually not that bad. I have a question here though.
She
Like,
gets
why
cuts off, but it's actually not that bad. Dude, and at the end, too, if you showed me this, what do you think right off the bat? I mean, it's an easy one, layup. What do you think that is?
Like a strawberry banana.
It's
yeah.
strawberry banana, 100%.
Yeah.
That is like just a straight up strawberry banana, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no strawberries in there, by the way.
Yeah.
It's the red
Yeah.
Gatorade that's giving it the
makes it
color. There are bananas, but it's the red Gatorade that gets diluted into this interesting color there. So if you did miss kind of the piece there, the weight gain concoction, it includes 7 eggs, grits, cottage cheese, peanut butter, a banana, and Gatorade, all combined.
It sounds so gross.
Yeah.
Like
Now, oh man, the eggs are tough. The grits, honestly, probably the worst part about it. You think banana,
it's
peanut
the
butter.
To me, it's the texture of
Yep,
grits. So like
yep.
if you ever had grits, like
100%.
they have a weird texture to them, and they don't have much flavor.
Yeah.
They don't really have any flavor at all.
And
but-
people might say, oh, like cottage cheese. Put cottage cheese in your smoothie, your shake, whatever you're making, you're going to be astounded. It's like a lot of people put yogurt in there. Cottage cheese is usually a much more macro-friendly version of like a yogurt and kind of like a shake or smoothie type deal. Fantastic. Because a lot of people, I think the biggest knock, not to go on a cottage cheese tangent here or die on this hill, if you will, but cottage cheese, I think the biggest knock on it is the consistency, right? I think people kind of get disgusted by like the curdles and all that stuff. It blends out, dude. It makes it like milk, like with way more protein, better macros. So banana, Gatorade, peanut butter, cottage cheese. Okay, then we go eggs and grits. And that's kind of the gauntlet right there.
And the funniest thing is, why not just put the egg in there? I was scared of getting food poisoning.
So he scrambles them, which, yeah, is hilarious. Does he season them? Probably not, right? There's
Probably
no point.
not, no.
What if he did? That'd be hilarious. So, given all that.
So what? I wonder how he figured this all out, though.
Yeah, dude. I would like to see the first shake he made compared to now.
Oh, I'm sure there was some real disgusting ones. Because if he found that, like, that tastes all right, there had to have been some bad ones.
So, which, by the way, if we're talking about these kind of concoctions, you know it's the off season, which is always hilarious. But, you know, given that said, he said he's 86 pounds heavier now. This was during like the combine, so obviously maybe it's changed since then, a couple years ago. But he was 86 pounds heavier now than when he arrived at St. John's as a freshman.
Which is insane.
86 pounds. That's almost a whole nother human.
Pretty much. It could be a whole
Could be, depending on their age. Yeah, that's wild. But again, given all that said, how often do you think he indulged in this special treat?
I mean, if he's trying to gain weight, he might have had it like every day.
You're damn close. 5 days a week.
So
5
probably
days a week.
Every day, like after every lift, he would make that probably.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Because
And-
typically
oh
you
my
lift 5
God.
days a week.
And
4
I
to 5
should
days.
have found out. I actually don't know off the top of my head. I didn't have like the research, the numbers right in front of me. What do you think a good calorie number is on that? I mean, 7 egg grits, cottage cheese, peanut butter is a big calorie piece. Banana, Gatorade give you a couple. I mean, it's not crazy.
It's
but
not-
like 7. It's just volume.
Yeah. I don't think it'd be unreal.
Over 1,500.
Yeah.
I think. Close to $2 grand, 2,000 calories.
Well, I don't know how much calories grits have.
Neither do I. It's kind of our wild card here.
Yeah. I should
So
be paying
I think the
I
only
I should be paying attention more in my nutrition class.
I think the only option is for us to recreate it as a D1R crew.
I think we should.
That'd actually be a hilarious
And we'll make
video.
Cade try it first.
Yeah, dude, that'd be great.
I promise you, Cade, it's strawberry banana smoothie. It's really good.
We should tell him.
It's really good. We've been making the recipe all night.
No, dude, he would sniff that shit out immediately because we wouldn't be able to hold our faces.
No.
But we should do that. That actually would be fun. I'll get the ingredients. I think all I need is grits, and I've got everything. Maybe a Gatorade. That's easy. Yeah. 5 days a week, getting ready for the combine. That's what he did. So pretty cool. A fun little D3 involvement, if you will. That's a cool piece on him. And then to finish off the episode here, we've got a very interesting piece. And this one, again, maybe not pertaining so much to Division II or Division III at the moment, but this was the first tweet that I saw about this new interesting issue, if you will. And it pertains to Dartmouth and their men's basketball team. Now, breaking the NLRB, and I need to pull up the actual article to tell you what exactly the hell that is. The National Labor Relations Board, obviously, Trev, they ruled that the men's basketball players are employees of Dartmouth and are allowed to go forward with an election, to create a union. That's the initial ruling. And so for the people that are listening, I've got a piece of some kind of legislation here in front of me. This is the tweet. If you're not seeing it, if you're listening. And it reads as follows. Dartmouth takes the position oh man, that's a tough start, Trev. Dartmouth takes the position the petition for basketball players are not employees within the meaning of the act and submits that the petition should be dismissed. In addition, Dartmouth takes the position that the board should decline to assert jurisdiction over the basketball players so as not to create instability in labor relations. But that's Dartmouth saying, this is bullshit. You can't agree to this. Please don't let this happen or we are in trouble. Then it says, as set forth below, I don't know who I is, but it's obviously not me. I find that because Dartmouth has the right to control the work performed by the men's varsity basketball team, and because the players perform that work in exchange for compensation, the petition for basketball players are employees within the meaning of the act. Additionally, I find that asserting jurisdiction would not create instability in labor relations. Accordingly, I shall direct an election in the petitioned for unit. That's a lot of legal jambalaya that we just went through. Basically, it means they're siding with the players and that they should be considered employees of the university. Just initial thoughts.
I mean, it's not a crazy thing to say.
It's not when you actually get into the nitty-gritty of like what it entails to be an employee, quote unquote. It's not ridiculous at all.
To be honest, like not to get on the NIL like tangent, but it makes more sense than players receiving NIL money as well.
You think so? Really?
Because think about it. So you're already getting compensated for playing a college sport in most cases because you're getting a scholarship.
Especially at Division I, it's not like people think it's just paying. Some people think it's just paying for books and tuition, whatever. These people are getting money outside of that. This is before NIL, before anything. You get extra stipends and those kind of things.
Exactly. You are not really paying a dime for your time being wherever you're at.
Yeah, unless you're an idiot. Yeah. Or sometimes housing can be a kind of an interesting deal,
but
you know.
If you can
most
people are pretty close to you're not paying a dime.
Most. For sure.
I mean, I think there's an argument there. You're working for the university and you have to follow their rules, right? Mm-hmm. And you're doing something for them and you're getting compensated for it.
Yep.
Because a scholarship is still compensation.
It is, and it's money. Like, it's not like compensation in the form of X, Y, or Z. Like, this is cash that you're giving them. It's not, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What that cash is going towards, whether it be tuition, books, housing, whatever it is, it's still money. It's still cash being exchanged, through hands. And it's just very interesting. So this National Labor Relations Board regional director on Monday ordered a union election for the men's basketball players. So now they can, again, we should say with a grain of salt, like Dartmouth is expected to appeal this ruling and probably with a lot more force and with the best lawyer or whatever they can find.
Which and I'm sure they can find some real damn good lawyers.
But, this could all be just gone tomorrow. It could be an afterthought and nobody speaks about it ever again.
Exactly. It could be like game-changing in the NCAA realm.
It'll be one or the other. It's going to vanish or it's going to be something you study in a class in like 15, 20 years.
Exactly, yeah.
All those like big time cases.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. So reading through here and talking about how this could really reshape the industry. It's very interesting. This
wonder,
right here, Michael Sue, I'm hopefully pronouncing that correctly. He says he's the co-founder of the College Basketball Players Association, the CBPA.
Oh, wow.
And he said it's a positive step. It is one further step. He filed a separate unfair labor practice complaint with the NLRB against the Ivy League.
Huh.
So that's how this all comes about, is they're saying there's unfair workplace practices being incorporated because this hasn't been treated as a workplace for so long, and maybe it should be.
This is interesting.
What kind of regulations would that potentially
Part
bring
of me
to
is
sports?
also, like, what is Dartmouth basketball trying to gain out of this? Like, what?
Yeah.
Because are you really being treated unfairly? Because there are plenty of regulations and rules within the NCAA already.
Now, the thing is, though, because they're an Ivy League institution, the Ivy League scholarships are different than your typical.
This is true.
Like FBS, FCS models. Like FBS, I use football because I just know those examples. An FBS football team is like 83 to 85, like full ride scholarships. FCS has 65, and you go down the list. Ivy League operates differently, and I think it's a little bit. I don't know the exact kind of
how it works.
Yeah, I don't think they really do athletic scholarships like the other NCAA schools.
This is true.
So that could be the basis of where this is coming from, is that we are performing on technically the same level. We're an FCS institution performing on the same level with the other FCS schools that are giving out full ride athletic scholarships to their student athletes.
And if you think, basketball, they're just with everybody else.
Yeah, there's no FCS, right? Yeah. It's just Division One.
There's always a March Madness. In March Madness, there's always an Ivy League team. Once in a while, there's two. Hasn't been that in a while.
So now that this is starting to make potentially a little bit more sense as to why they might want to do that, because they do maybe think they're being treated unfairly. Which then you're at Dartmouth, so maybe you should just.
Then you have a whole nother argument for Ivy League to get into the football realm and things.
Yeah,
that they're not allowed to go to bowl games. Did you know?
Yeah.
That? You knew that, right?
Yeah. Is it that, or do they opt out of the playoffs? I believe the Ivy League opts out of the national playoffs.
But they're not allowed to go to bowl games either.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so
odd. That's why they always have that, the best Ivy League team plays the best team in Japan.
Okay.
Or they played the Japan's dream team.
Okay. Weird, dude. Weird.
It's like
college football's weird.
I think that could go into their whole argument too eventually. Like if this gets bigger.
Yep. So, and again, we'll see very quickly if it does get bigger or if it just shrinks up and disappears.
Because no one will talk about it ever.
They believe that Dartmouth will appeal this, just like the Northwestern case. Apparently, there was something going on before. We'll see if they can actually conduct the vote before it gets appealed to the NLRB. And then the question will be how long they'll wait around before they make a decision. It might actually put pressure on the entire system, because you talk about the amateurism and the whole business model, that the NCAA is built upon. Man, then you talk about things. Player compensation is a big one. If they're treated as employees, how does that factor in all of the money being exchanged hands through broadcast deals and ad revenue and merchandise and ticket sales? And we've cracked the door there with name, image, and likeness. Especially just going to name, image, the merchandise and those kinds of things. What about all the other money that changes hands in college athletics that the athletes don't get to see? And I always crack the door there, and we've seen how that's been very interesting in the last couple months. But then also player movement. Do you lay off workers? Do you trade? Is this how does that? What kind of dynamic does that make? Is there a transfer portal anymore? You don't transfer if you're working for the school. You put in a 2 weeks notice and then pray that somebody else hires you.
Yeah.
I'm proud to announce I'm proud to announce that I've been hired by Northern Michigan University.
Yeah, there's just so much that could stem from this, in so many conversations. So once again, we're the only people that are ever going to talk about it because it won't matter.
And in 2014, it says an NLRB regional director also ruled that Northwestern football players were employees and ordered a union election. But when the case came before the board explicitly did not decide whether the football players were employees. The reasoning was that Northwestern was the only private school that competed in the Big Ten Conference. The board stated that in such a situation, asserting jurisdiction would not promote stability in labor relations due to the variety of state labor laws that would apply to football teams at state-run institutions.
Huh.
lot of legal slang,
Yeah.
gander in there. Oh man. So then, how does this impact college sports? Right, it would potentially usher in. You have a collective bargaining agreement for the NFL is a big one, right? You talk about the CBA and when all the hoops they jump through, the Players Association to get that passed. That would be something that we'd see in college. We'd have a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement between the NCAA and the student athletes, and people would have to represent at different levels. It would be almost treated as its own like legal structure, which is odd. And then you talk about conferences, schools sharing a piece of the broadcast rights to those who are actually playing in the televised games.
It could be like very.
So again, if we're going to set the odds here on if this decision stands or not, I think the decision standing is probably at about plus 1,800 to plus 2,000, maybe even more.
I was going to say plus 2,500.
Plus 25, yeah. I think that's realistic. I think that's totally realistic. There's a lot of great information on on3.com, who does like a lot of recruiting and other things. That's where I'm getting a bunch of my info from. They do a lot of like transfer stuff too, but this is a pretty good article that they put together. So, man. Yeah, because then you have the Fair Labor Standards Act that would come into play, and you have to treat them all according to certain regulations and things. It's going to be very interesting. So if you're listening to this, comment your opinions, your takes on this. And I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say. And we talk about this because if this does impact the Division I level, guess what? The NCAA as a governing body has multiple levels, and it would not just affect Division I. This would be a Division II, potentially Division III, but they're not being paid. So how does that...
See, you don't even try to think about it right now.
Oh, no, dude. Because Division II, you're still getting athletic scholarship. Division III, you have academic, but it's a different...
But it's not the same thing.
Yeah. So then Division III players would not be exempt. Right?
Or could they in some way? Or then do they say that they're not...
But they say this is unfair because of the workplace.
Yeah. I'm telling you, this could open up so many things, or again, it just might.
Oh, dude,
it might be nothing.
That's crazy. Crazy. So this says just to close it out, a particular focus was on meals and hotels paid for by the college, strength conditioning sessions, mandatory practices and meetings, and the consequences of missing any of those. This guy was talking about it. He repeatedly used the phrase optional mandatory. That's something we've all heard as athletes. Yeah, optional workouts. But if you don't show up, you're going to get your ass chewed out. Like, this is a legit, you can't miss this.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the bigger
so
argument,
Ivy League,
I can understand that.
By the way, Ivy League institutions do not offer athletic scholarships.
So that
makes a lot more
could
the
go
grounds
down
for
to
it.
the D3 realm as well. And well, I knew they didn't do it for football, but for some reason in my head, I thought it might have been different for other sports.
Agreed. No, I didn't know either. So very interesting. But like I said, leave your comments or suggestions, whatever takes, crazy or not, you got on this. Appreciate you listening in. Thank you for joining me, Trev. It's been D1R 149, 150 on the way. A couple big time guests joining me next week. Appreciate you all for tuning in.